Hey, guys, I just got just 3 quick hitters for you, and I'd like to know your opinion on this. I've been around the working world enough to know that sometimes professionally people get put in a position that's beyond their capabilities, and sometimes they end up having to retract back a little bit. Take, for example, any line of business, but take the retail profession. You might have the greatest assistant manager that's doing everything fantastic, wonderfully, and then they get promoted up into that manager position, and they're the worst manager in the world. They don't know how to fill that role. They lose. They don't know how to lead in that perspective. And I think that's what you've got with Red. I think he's a fantastic assistant coach, and I think he's one level up higher than he's capable of right now. The second thing is that I was listening to another talk show.
Well, now we can't talk to you anymore.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a competing one.
Okay.
But they were talking about, does this team have enough ingredients to be a championship team? I think you can get, meaning the players being the ingredients, and I think you can get the best ingredients in the world. If you don't know how to mix the ingredients together, you're going to make a crappy cake. And I think that's what you're seeing a little bit is that, we're getting the talent allegedly out of the transfer portal. We're getting the high-end recruits with Cayenne and Sadiq, but the finished product, it doesn't look like it's getting developed. And lastly, I'll make a comment about the attendance. Last night was probably the first time in a long time that I felt like, and no disrespect to the women's team, that's a whole other thing. I feel they shouldn't even be playing in the Dome. They should have their own place, a little more intimate. But last night, it felt like I was at a women's basketball game. There couldn't have been any more than 3,400 people in the place, and that's sad. So that's really all I got, guys. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are.
All right, appreciate you checking in, Jay. Yes, I think the women's team, we saw it like when they had the Asia Fair, people were coming out. That 2016 team that's going to be honored in March. There were great attendance that year. Hopefully, people catch on that this year's team is really good, and they come out and they support this team. They're 10-1 right now. They're top 40 in the net. They play a fun style of basketball. Hopefully, people can come out and support this women's team because they deserve it. They're fun to watch. In terms of his points about coaching, he's right. I mean, Jay's right that just because you're good at one level doesn't mean you're good at the next. I will say, and again, I'm not comparing Adrian Autry to like Leonard Hamilton or Coach Krzyzewski. There are plenty of examples like a Leonard Hamilton or Coach Krzyzewski that they started slow and that they turned into pretty good coaches. Coach K was on the hot seat. I mean, if you go back
Coach
in time,
Mack here is
Coach Mack is a good example. Coach K, his first 3 years at Duke, 17-13, 10-17, 11-17. They were talking about firing him. Now, I'm not saying that Adrian Autry is that. Leonard Hamilton, they didn't win a conference game his first year. Leonard Hamilton turned out to be a pretty good coach. All I'm saying is that, everybody's different. Everybody moves at their own speed. We know what's kind of happened the last 2 years. I said this to you before the show. I think this is a good time to kind of bring it up, is that I feel like SU fans in some ways are in a no-lose situation right now. Because if this season goes south, then everybody can point to, I was right. I was right. He was awful, and a new coach is going to come in. And if they're wrong and Syracuse wins a lot of games and makes the NCAA tournament, then SU fans should be happy for that because they won a lot of games and they made the NCAA tournament. So I think, listen, this year's going to play out the way that it plays out, and we all kind of know what happens. It's a choose-your-own adventure. If you choose adventure 1, we know what's going to happen. If you go to the adventure 2, you know what's going to happen.
I think it's the opposite of choose-your-own adventure because you know the outcome. Either way.
I'm saying we don't know which way it's going to go. You don't know if you're going down path A or path B. Yeah, and we're all going to see it together. We're going to experience it together, and then we know what the end result's going to be.
Yes, and if Red, I've seen it happen in the workplace where people get hired and they're not capable of doing the job, and those people are no longer in their jobs. And I'm not wishing that on anybody, but that's the outcome that happens. And, it's year 3. That's probably about the amount of time most people get in
And we all know what's going to happen. He knows, everybody.
He knows.
Everybody knows this is a make or break.
Do you think that plays into how the players play?
I think so. Which is strange to me a little bit because you would think that now it could go one of both ways, right, or one of two ways. You talk about, does it play into the way that they're approaching the game? You would think that if they knew the urgency of got to win every game because
or is it stressful?
That's what I was going to say. Or it can make you play tight. So maybe that's something to look at. I don't know. It's hard to judge right now because they're playing these lesser teams that they shouldn't be tight against. Mercyhurst.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be tight going into the second half when you're up by 16. So that doesn't explain the second half last night. Does it explain, maybe how they played against Hofstra when that game got close and they got a little tight? Maybe, but it doesn't explain all of it. So, it's an interesting point you bring up. Derek in Boston. We had him on the other day. He was
Derek,
a great call.
Yes.
He's back
Hopefully
with us.
He saves us.
Derek, how are you today?
Guys, I don't know if I'm going to save you today.
Okay.
I'm just starting to listen. Have you guys talked about his post-game press conference yet?
Not yet, no. Oh, it's on the docket. What do you got to say?
I've tried to remain really positive with Red through this whole time, but you're obviously coming off a tough loss against Hofstra. Your team just loses the second half to Mercyhurst. And that's the time you pick to kind of I would say he picked a fight with the fan base. When he's talking about that's our narrative and they have a different narrative and their offense isn't the problem. And I know they've been supposedly have been heavy in analytics over the past couple of years. They had the kid that left to go to the Knicks, Alex Klein's an analytics guy. Right now, analytically, I believe they're 118th in in offense.
Yep, that's the Ken Palm rating.
In Ken Palm offensive efficiency, and then he picks that press conference to go out there and say the offense isn't the problem. And I agree. I mean, it goes two ways, right? There's plenty of problems out there. I mean, that team looked like they didn't want to be out there yesterday, which I don't really understand that. After losing to Hofstra, you think they'd come out with their head on fire and play a little harder, which they didn't besides William Kyle and J.J. Starling. But for him to choose that press conference when he should be fighting for this fan base's approval to kind of pick that fight, I'm just curious for your guys' thoughts on that, because whether you coach, played or not, you can watch that offense and it's not good offense. And I know Paulie is always arguing with the chat. They do run an offense, and technically, yes, they do run an offense. You do have to have offense to play it. But, I mean, I don't know if you guys remember yesterday, it was in the second half. Nathan George comes off a ball screen, gets into the paint, and they're running a flare screen for Sadiq White, and it bounces. I think George throws it into the stands. It hit off White's hands or goes into the stands, and Red just kind of turns around and throws his hands up. And I just think what they're running does not fit what they have. And I'm just curious your guys' thoughts overall on that press conference.
Yeah, so Derek, do you want to start, Paulie, or you want me to jump in here on the press conference?
The press conference wasn't great. Yeah. Do you want to hit on the press conference or the offense?
Well, I just got something to say about the press conference. So I agree with everyone. It wasn't great.
He didn't win the offseason last night.
No. In terms of, Derek asked the question, why did he pick this particular spot? And my feeling on this is that this is my feeling. I think he believes that this is a good team, and I think he believes that they are not that far away. And I think he is frustrated, and I think that he is defending his team. I think that's kind of what we saw last night, especially with the exchange about offense. I think he believes in what they are doing. He believes in the philosophy. He believes in the work that they're putting in. He believes that the results will be there. And again, I think he looks at it as everything we've been saying. Man, you make a free throw or two or a bounce or two goes your way, you're 9-2 right now instead of 7-4. And I think he believes that they are close, and he is frustrated. And so I think he let some of his frustration show last night.
The other thing that's frustrating is last night they go 4 for 17 from the three, and they were all, I would say 90% of their threes were good looks. And I don't know if this team's a good 3-point shooting team, Steve.
Yeah.
And maybe you got to go.
I think you do know.
Maybe you need to go away from that.
Yeah.
You know,
it's hard. It's hard in 2025 in major Division I college basketball to not utilize the 3-point line, though, right? And I know you're gonna throw stats at me. You're right. 4 for 17 is not
I'm going to
good.
throw your center was 7 of 8 against the smallest team in the country.
No, I know. I agree with you that they're not a good 3-point shooting team. They have to find, which is why, he said that Luke Fennell has been playing better in practice. I think that's a reason that you saw him. I think he's hoping somebody's going to spark them from 3-point range.
Luke was the most open of all of the threes.
Well, right, because he hasn't played a lot, and let's see if the kid can beat us from deep, and he didn't, and he hasn't yet. But I do believe that that's kind of why we saw him. We were right last night about the press. We said you're going to see the press early on. We saw it immediately, and that helped them out to that 16-point lead. But, I just don't think they're a good 3-point shooting team. And, if
don't you have to adjust to that?
Well, yes, but I was going to say if they want to get to where they're going, I think they have to utilize the 3-point line to some degree.
Yes, but I don't know. Against that team last night, you needed 17 attempts. They're the shortest team in the country.
Okay. I mean, I'm with you on that. Like, I'm good about last night. I thought you meant moving forward.
No, but I am saying moving forward. Sometimes maybe you got to pick your poison. If you're not going to make them, why shoot them?
Yeah, I mean, Nate Kings was 0 for 3. I mean, you assume he's too good of a shooter to be stuck in this slump, right?
We said that about Chris Bell and Choppa Moore last year.
You're right. Well, I don't know about Choppa, but I mean, Chris Bell is a great shooter. I don't know. I don't mind Kings putting up 3 of them. I mean,
no, I don't mind Kings doing it.
JJ was 2 for 4. I think it's got to be the right guys. Tyler Betsy last night.
He's an enigma.
Some nights he's great.
It's confusing.
Some nights he can't make a shot. Last night he was 0 for 4. Kyan can make that shot. One of them was really deep with the shot clock winding down, but he was 1 for 3. I think, Kings being 0 for 3, that obviously hurts your percentage there.
Griffin in our chat says maybe it's the offensive scheme. It's not the offensive scheme because they get wide open looks from the 3. Like, I've been saying that to you guys. Like, they get wide open looks. It's just something's not clicking on the offense. It's not right. They run an offense. It's just not. They're not making shots. I don't know if it's the players. I don't know if they're not running it properly, but there's a problem.